see how loose that is. How easy that would be for somebody to break into. Oh, it's the police. Could you just come to the back door, please?
In January alone, 147 crimes were reported in the Selly Oak area. Antisocial behaviour accounted for 31% of all reported crime, whilst burglary weighed in at 12%. Violent and sexual crimes also occur frequently, with 13% representing a significant proportion of all crime.
How safe do you feel in Selly Oak?
Kind of safe. I feel like it's improved since last year because there were loads of incidents with the police last year, but I feel like there's more people patrolling around, so I feel safer now.
I definitely feel very safe on this road, not so much on Bristol Road though.
Have you been a victim of crime in Selly Oak?
I haven't personally been a victim of crime.
So a few of my friends have obviously had their houses robbed and like laptops stolen and stuff like that, but to be honest, not in a little while.
No, but once I kind of got terrored by a man on Bristol Road a couple of times, like the same person, so that was quite scary.
How do you find out about the crimes?
Just by word of mouth, other students have told me about it, and yeah, just stories and stuff, you know.
Usually like the tab, they usually kind of cover most of them.
Do you think a climate of fear exists?
Yes, I do for some people. I know quite a lot of people.
I feel like it does, but I don't feel a part of it because I feel like if a crime's going to happen, it's going to happen anyway. There's no point fearing it, just it's going to happen if it happens.
We visited students living in a house on Tiverton Road who had recently been victims of a break-in.
So if you guys just want to describe in your own words what happened.
So we were just in bed, we got to bed just a normal night. Next thing I know, a guy is just bursting into my room. He's asking for someone called Jason, who we don't know anyone called Jason who lives here. I basically chased him down the stairs, and just shut him out and then just shouted for the girls to come down and then phone the police.
Okay. Well, what were your initial reactions to this happening?
I didn't know what was going on. I just thought he was messing around shouting for me, so when I got in my room I was like, oh god, there's someone there, so I just called the police.
I thought it was later than it was because it was only like 10:30, 11:15.
Late.
Oh, right.
And because we've gone to bed, I sort of assumed it was later, but it was quite early.
And have you done anything differently, would you say, since it's happened? Has anything changed in your house? Or?
I think we're a lot more, we check the windows and doors a lot more when we go to bed. We've got the new alarms on the windows and stuff, and on the door.
Is that something your landlord put in after
the police gave us the alarms, and they just stick on, so it's been useful.
Fantastic. And how do you feel the safety in Selly Oak? Do you feel safe still, or has it been kind of a bit
I think until then, like, we'd heard about stuff, but you just felt fine. I think we're a bit more aware of it since then, a bit more careful.
Yeah. To be fair, the police response was really good because
really
they got
good.
here within, like, we were still on the phone when they got there, so that made us feel quite safe.
They did a lot to make sure that we felt comfortable in the house that evening, and then they've been really good actually.
To find out what the Guild of Students has been doing in response to the perceived increase in crime in Selly Oak, we spoke to Jack Mabley, the Vice President of Housing and Community, who will take over as President in September.
This time last year we had the spate of armed robberies, which was unfortunate, and I ran as Captain Sailing You to a Safer Selly. I think crime has gone down. We've seen a 20% reduction in crime, which has been fantastic. That's thanks to work with the police, community wardens, and all the work that the Guild have been putting in.
What services do the Guild offer students living in Selly Oak which help to protect their safety?
So we have a community warden scheme, which was just mentioned. The community wardens are there to do a greener, cleaner, safer Selly Oak. They go on weekly all-out patrol days with the police.
Do you think a climate of fear exists among students regarding crime in Selly Oak?
Yeah, so I think the fear of crime is a lot more pertinent than the actual crime itself. Crime year on year is going down and down, and it was something I was made aware of it as I went through PhD. I thought crime was a real problem in Selly Oak, but year on year we're seeing reduction in crime, and the police and the guild are doing some really good work, sort of joint initiatives on sort of tackling crime, and yeah, so I'm really hopeful that crime will keep on reducing.
And finally, what do you think about the student media exploitations of crime to get reads?
So, the media does what it has to do, and it reports the news that does occur. I think some media outlets do exaggerate how serious crime is, and it does add to the fear of crime. But obviously crime does happen, and I think students need to know, and I think it does help students prepare themselves for any potential robberies, burglaries, and it means students are sort of protecting themselves and looking out for each other. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is a little bit exaggerated.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
The community wardens, as mentioned by Jack, join the local police on regular patrols around Selly Oak. They check for unlocked doors and gates, or any other factors which would cause a house to be targeted by criminals. We joined them along Healy Road and spoke to Sergeant Simon Williams about his views on safety in Selly Oak.
Does Selly Oak have a higher crime rate than other parts of Birmingham?
No, absolutely not. The crime rates in Selly Oak are representative of areas with that similar population right across Birmingham and probably right across England and Wales, in all fairness. If we look at Selly Oak as a ward, which actually is on the map just behind you, Bournebrook and the student area is the centre of that ward, and the context is that we've got 28,500 students that live within about a 2 square kilometre radius of each other in Bournebrook and just across the main Bristol Road on the university campus and the halls of residence up there. If we look at total recorded crime, so that's absolutely everything that's been reported to the police over the last 18 months or so, we've had roughly about a 1% reduction in total recorded crime. So that is going the right way, which is a positive. I think where the really good news story comes in for the student community and for the partnerships that we've got with the university, the Guild of Students, and the partnerships that the local neighbourhood team have with the other policing departments at Birmingham South local policing unit, is that burglary and robbery in particular, we've seen some really, really significant reductions in over some really key periods during the past 12 to 18 months. So for burglary, which tends to be top of students' agenda when we talk to you guys around crime, if we always look at our key periods, our critical periods. We've just had a conversation on the way down here around that first term, that first semester, Freshers' Week, following on to the run up to Christmas and the end of the year, has always historically been the biggest risk period for us around student burglaries. And if you look at the way that housing is structured now in the Bournebrook area, often the least number of students you have in a house now is 5 or 6, and often it's upwards of that to sort of 10, and in some cases more. So for offenders, these houses, student houses, the back-to-back Victorian terraces in Bournebrook, can be a really, really nice target, a nice place to come and try and commit offences. We have had a really robust plan in place for the last 3 or 4 years that we've built on every year. So September to December in 2014, we reduced the number of burglaries compared to the previous key period, so September to December 2013, by 42%. So that meant that we had 32 less victims of burglary.
Student Ollie Hans spoke to us about his experience as a mugging victim.
So I was walking home from Fab on the first Fab of term. It was probably about 2 in the morning, and I just decided to leave. I was quite drunk and just kind of wanted to go home to bed. And I was walking up Dawlish Road, and unbeknown to me, I walked past these 3 group of guys on the same side of the road as me. And I didn't even recognise that I walked past them. Just walked past them, and then was walking up Taymouth, where I live, just in the middle of Tamworth. And I put my keys in the front door, and then I felt a smack around the side of my jaw, and then a punch in my back. So then I obviously turned around whilst my keys were still in the door, and there was these 3 guys kind of just cornered me up against my door. And then I got punched about 12 times, I think, and I kind of had bruising down me. But then this other guy started running towards them. He was just wearing a black hoodie, and I didn't really know what was going on. So this guy chased, and then all 3 of them just dispersed up Tamworth. And I didn't really know what was going on. So obviously I went in my house in a state of absolute panic, called the police, and called my parents and let them know exactly what had happened. And obviously I still was confused like who this person was. Later turned on like, out that the person that came back was an unmarked police officer that had followed the whole incident up Dawlish and up Tamworth. And they were in this just unmarked police car. They had just seen that these 3 guys had turned around and started following me. So they followed us up Dawlish and parked their car on the bottom of Tamworth. And then as soon as they saw that they had me against the door, they got out of the car and literally sprinted up Tamworth. The thing was, the guy that came back round was so apologetic that he couldn't get to me quicker. But I was just so thankful that they were there. Like, I think I was just so lucky that they were there at the time. Like, God knows what would have happened, like if they tried to come in the house or whatever. But yeah, that's essentially what happened. And then there was a police helicopter in the area, and they used that to find them, and also with police dogs as well. And they arrested all 3 of them. And they took my wallet because they were asking for my wallet and my phone. And I think at the time I was thinking like I would more prefer to give them my wallet than my phone, so I wouldn't have been able to contact anyone. So yeah, but they realised there was no money obviously in my wallet, so they just threw it in a bush, literally a couple of doors up. So I got my wallet back, and then I got it back in the morning. Went to Bourneville police station. So yeah, that's essentially what happened really. The police were there like at all times, and I had constant phone calls from them like every single day for like the next week, to let me know what had happened, and they came around my house to make sure I was okay. And then my parents came straight up because I live in Sussex, so they drove straight up the next day and kind of picked me up and took me home. But yeah, they were in constant contact with them, and I literally cannot fault them in the slightest, because I thought they was, you know, the way they dealt with it and the way they handled it was absolutely fantastic. And I know, I think there were rumours that they weren't there at the time, but I think because they were parked at the bottom of Tamworth, they literally just couldn't get there quick enough. But yeah, as I said, if they hadn't been there, then God knows what would have happened. But yeah, I think I think the Tab wrote an article about it as well. And obviously, so many people shared that, and it was the first thing, kind of the first mugging that happened in Selly Oak. And you hear about it all the time, but you never think it's going to happen to you.
I think it's a really positive thing that student media, whether that be online, written, the filming that you're doing tonight, and the student radio. I think it's a really, really positive thing that the media generally, student-wise, is getting involved and taking an interest in crime and antisocial behaviour that occurs in Selly Oak. What I don't think is so good is that sometimes the stories can come across as maybe not completely factual, and also I think it's really important that the way they're written and the tone that they're written in comes across as a look, please be aware that this is an issue at the moment, and also these are the facts because we've spoken to the police about them, so we know what we're reporting, and this is what you can do about it. So that crime reduction element, that crime prevention, that reassurance, that advice, I think sometimes can be missing from certain publications.
Due to suggestions that student media has been creating a climate of fear, editor of the Tab, Harry York, talked to us about his reporting of crimes over the past couple of years.
So I wrote a series of reports about what's happening. At the time of exams, you were seeing 2 to 3, serious crimes, robbery, burglaries happening nearly a week. So I would say there was a climate of fear, but was that me adding to that? No, not at all. I think the facts do the talking themselves. You know, if that was the scale of what was happening was worrying, and students were coming to me and reporting these crimes to me. They were messaging me on Facebook because they were generally scared. And a lot of the people that I interviewed, when they gave the interviews about their experiences, the main focus was, yes, I personally was, really upset. I've been burgled, but I want other people to know, because I want other people to be aware that this can happen to anyone. So, yes, I think, obviously as a police officer, your duty is going to be to ensure that people are confident to go about their daily lives. And I'm not suggesting that they shouldn't have, but we just wanted people to know. And that's what news is at the end of the day. If you think about it, if the tab wasn't putting out these articles and you had all the students reading them and sharing it with their friends, people will, like I said, go out into the, come to uni late at night and whereas having read the article, they might look behind them or a couple, check where they're going or, oh, did I leave my window open, for example, in my bedroom? Those are the kind of things that news and being aware of the dangers that were happening at the time, that's the kind of thing that would make people go and do those checks. So in that regard, I think it was incredibly helpful.
Finally, a few tips from the police on how you can stay safe in Selly Oak.
When you go out, leave the lights on, lock up everywhere, leave a TV, leave a radio on, make it sound as though that somebody's at home. All of those things will help. But the biggest one in Selly Oak, in the context of student area, lock your doors.